hey, there was one, now there's two. Rod Fergusson is here. He's the studio.
One and a half.
One and a half. You've got a cold.
I do have a cold.
I really appreciate you coming down, man. That's awesome. He is the studio head of the Coalition, and they've worked on some tiny little indie games.
Yeah.
Tiny. Gears of War 4, massive success, but everybody, of course, knows that you're working on Gears 5. And lots of cool things, actually.
Yeah, well, we got 3 games in the works right now. We have Gears Pop, which is our mobile game, Gears 5, our console game, and Gears Tactics, our PC game. So yeah, we're kind of broadening the franchise.
What has happened with the way that you've carved up the development team? Because you have been a one game sort of focused group, but now you've got all of these different things going on.
Yeah, well, we have a central team that does Gears 5, and then we have a publishing group that is working with great partners. We have Splash Damage working on Tactics, and Mediatonic working on Gears Pop.
Okay.
Both of them in the UK.
Right.
And so that's kind of how we're able to keep 3 projects going all at the same time. And we work with Splash Damage on Ultimate Edition, so it was a great way to start that partnership, and then it's just continued to grow.
Splash Damage is awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they've got a nice long history in the business. Have you guys been growing as you've been at the Coalition? Has it been a like consistent growth as new technology, and now you've got to understand all of the the requirements that people have with their fancy 4K systems and TVs?
Yeah, it's been one of the interesting transitions when you look at Gears 1 all the way to now Gears 5. The growth has been incredible.
Yeah.
When I got hired at Epic, I was employee number 63.
Wow.
So if you think of Gears 1 was probably an 80-person team, and now we're in the multiple hundreds on Gears 5, and so yeah, it's just that what used to be a thing that was something a generalist could do, where you could do, our level designers would also do the environment art and the textures and the placement and all this stuff, and now you have very specific, I have a person who just does lighting.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the way it was back in 2005. And,
yes.
And, and having people who just do modeling or just do tech, like it's become so complex with 4K and everything else that you actually have a lot more specialists, and so your teams have gotten bigger.
Are there more of you as well? Like,
no.
Have you had to clone yourself or hire people to help you figure out all of these different things?
Yeah, I have a lot of really great support. I have a design director for multiplayer with Ryan Clevin, and a design director for campaign, which is Matt Searcy.
Yeah.
And I just hired and essentially brought back Bonnie Gima. She was on the narrative team for Gears 4, and we brought her back as a franchise narrative lead for the entire franchise.
Nice.
Because we're doing so much now. We're doing comic books, and we're doing transmedia stuff.
Yeah.
And plus with 3 games and keeping all the lore and canon and all, it can't just go through me.
Yeah.
And we have some people. The guy who ran the Gears Wiki is on one part of our QA.
No way. So like a fan?
Yeah, well, so Andrew Morava, he's our hardest of the hardcore. So I would look at this comic. Is there anything wrong? And you're like, that guy wasn't there on that day, and you're like, okay, good, good to know. I'll send it back, right? So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you need to get that kind of support, because it is such a big franchise now, and so it can't all just go through one person.
Yeah. There's been a lot of hype over the spectacular God of War that came out last year, and it was like a reinvention of that franchise and the way to look at it. But you guys had kind of done something similar with Gears of War 4. It wasn't like shaking everything up, but I think there was some concern over how you guys were going to handle it and how it was going to be made and how it was going to connect, to the stuff we had known before and also be new.
Right.
You pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean, we did it different, and I think they had a long history with God of War, and I think because of their long history with God of War, they were able to go and truly reinvent, and go and say, we're going to go completely different.
Yeah.
We were a new studio, new team, first time working on the franchise, and we felt like we didn't have permission yet. We hadn't earned the right to go and reinvent totally from the ground up. And so we sought out to build a Gears game that Gears players wanted, and that they knew they wanted.
Yeah, but still, new characters, like a next generation of people to care about, and that's what got me about Gears 4, is that I didn't expect to love these characters. I didn't expect to laugh at the beats and get into the story of it, and I did for big chunks of the previous Gears, but it felt like it almost overstayed its welcome a little bit. Yeah. And I think you guys shaking it up was, but not too much, was a very shrewd move.
Thanks. Yeah, we were trying to make it contemporary, to feel contemporary. It felt like, it felt like Gears 1, 2, and 3 was kind of the Tim Burton Batman. Yeah. And we wanted to be closer to the Christopher Nolan Batman.
Nice,
and we weren't going to get there, but we wanted to at least kind of have some of those sensibilities. And the other part was that, when you look at our characters, you look at Marcus and Cole and Baird and Dom, they were so fixed. It was, they were in their 40s and they were sort of fixed in their personality, and so they weren't really going to transform based on their events.
Right.
The world was going to transform around them.
Yeah.
And so what I really want to do with the next generation is have these 20-somethings that, through their adventures and through what they do, they can actually transform as characters. And you kind of see that in the E3 trailer with JD gets messed up and you don't know why, but they've changed their relationships, and we wanted that to have the adventures have an impact on them as personalities.
You guys must have been so scared.
About
the reception and the,
oh, totally.
Was it just, I
yeah.
mean, like, how do you get over that as you're edging closer to release?
Yeah, it's just talking to people and hearing the feedback, it was just amazing. And that was one of the things that was kind of a shock, as I talked about before, is that I was going out really nervous, going like, oh, we haven't earned the right to, like we have to prove.
Yeah.
And on like the first couple of, we go out and talk to fans a couple times and they're like, yeah, no, you totally got it. Like, what are you doing now? And
that's awesome.
And that's where we're like, oh, we didn't push hard enough on the new because like we were so busy trying to prove ourselves.
That was the complaint.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, like, I'm spoiling the end a little bit of Gears, but that was my favorite part when we got all the cool new toys at the end.
Right.
And I'm like, I want more! I want to keep going. And that's kind of what you get to start from now, right?
Totally. Now we get to work on a game that we really feel like we can bring our personalities here. Like, this is the Coalition's Gears of War. It's not trying to like make sure we're staying completely within the lanes. Like, we're going to go at different places and do different things, and and that's what I'm excited about for fans, to see a Coalition version of the game.
Awesome. Can you give us any sense of what that might be? Like any kind of taste of what the Coalition?
Not really.
I mean, you gave us a pretty good look in the trailer.
Yeah.
We get to see that Kate is the person that we're going to be invested in.
She's the protagonist, and it was, I got a lot of questions about like, oh, are you just doing this to be trendy, like da, right? And I was like, no, actually, not at all. It was really an organic, as we went through to tell our story, because we're not going out and saying like, here's all the beats of all our stories forever. Like, it was like, let's tell this part of the story and see where we go. And when you look at Gears 4, it really is Kate's story. It's about saving her mom and what's happened, and especially the twist at the end. And so when we got to sit down and start thinking about 5, we were like, well, wait, like, if you're going to have this impactful story happening to this character, wouldn't it be even more impactful if it was happening to you and not to you're watching somebody go through something?
Totally.
And so we're like, so it felt like, I always go back to Mad Max Fury Road. It's like, it's called Mad Max Fury Road, but it's really Furiosa Fury Road. Like, it's really her story.
Which they need to make, by the way.
They do need to make.
They need to make a Furiosa
Yeah,
movie.
so JD is Mad Max. Like, he was a good character that supported Kate.
Yeah.
And so I felt like for 5, what we should do is put the focus on the right character and let her come to the forefront and shine.
How much of a conversation was that with you guys? Did it take months of kind of just trying different ideas and different sort of mazes of where you could go, or was it like, yeah, of course, we're going to do that?
The choice of protagonist was pretty quick. It was that wasn't. There was the other stuff, like, where do we, like, as we were saying, we want to be innovative and we want to take it to new places, but again, we don't want to take it so far that we break it.
Right.
And so it was more about, okay, like, what about this part, and what about this part, and what about this part? And so we just went off and prototyped a bunch of stuff, and then we come back and we start playing those prototypes, and we're like, that feels good, that doesn't feel good, those sorts of things. And it starts to settle into, okay, what are our pillars, what's our mission, let's go drive towards something.
Right on. So is that a kind of a description of the way that you guys conceive of things? You go into prototype pretty quickly? Is that, you just like with what, like simple geometry and little X's and O's and things like that? Or?
Well, once you have like we have mature tech, so we already had 4, and so once you have that, you can pretty quickly go in and start creating things that look like things. Like, you're like, maybe it doesn't, that monster has different behaviors, it doesn't look right, but it has the behavior you want, and so you start to play with AI, or you start to play with weapon functionality, or you start to play with things that happen in the level and those sorts of things, and you go like, does this work, does that work? And it's kind of like, the close cover combat stuff we put into Gears 4, where you could reach over and stab somebody, like, that was a pretty late addition.
Cool.
And then we're like, oh, that's kind of an interesting part about what is it that we're doing to advance cover? Like, because cover is such a big part of Gears, like, what are we doing? And so prototype a bunch of new types of cover gameplay, and does that work? And those kinds of things. So.
We've been on panels before, we've talked about external development, and you have teams that are not embedded at the Coalition that you work with. Talk to me a little bit about trusting them with your baby a little bit.
Yeah, it's always hard, but we have such great partners, and having a great relationship is a big part of that. And we always try to treat that as a partnership and not an over the wall, like, just build that thing for us. Like, we try to find ways that we can, they check into our source database, and we have those types of relationships with them that we can build things together, and we have the trust. And so it's an important part. Like, these types of games can't be built generally, built by one team. You have to go out and find art outsourcers and code outsourcers and those types of things, right? And so but we want to make it feel like co-development and less about the kind of just outsourcing, and more about like how do we work together to build this together.
Awesome. You've talked about this game just severely kicking ass on a powerful PC. Is that still the goal, like to get it to the new game, Gears 5, to get it to 120 frames per
I don't
second?
know about, I'm not going to promise any frames per second, but yeah, I mean, we always have two things that we want to do. Is we're always sort of pushing the visual, we always want to be a visual showcase. That's sort of one of the things that we always put in our, okay, what's the first, few bullets for the next game, and it's like visual showcase is always at the top.
Yeah.
And then it's about, we have all this power now with the X and on PC, and so we want to push that power and see what we can do with it. And it's one of those great things, like in 4, we ship with a benchmark mode, so you can feel like how to optimize the game to get to run as fast and smooth as possible.
Yep.
And we're just going to continue, because again, excuse me, this is an engine team that's been with this engine for a long time now, and we know how to optimize it, and so we're just pushing it to the limit.
That's awesome. Do you, when you see the X and the work that transpired with getting 4 running on the X and just looking beautiful, does it bug you that wasn't the launch Xbox One? Because you guys could really show what the game was capable of?
Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that we were the first game out there that was enhanced for the X.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. No, I mean, it makes sense for when you're looking for finding hardware that approaches all audiences, you have to recognize that's one of the things about going from just a pure creator to understanding the business of and you have to look at what's the right price point for everybody. And so having an S out there means a lot more people get to play.
Yeah.
And so if we had an X, that means that a bunch of people probably may not have been able to afford it or come to the console or to that ecosystem. And so I think the SX thing works, and I'm happy for it, but I definitely like tapping in and having that X experience, because being able to go up to 60 frames per second and to see all the 4K textures and the HDR and everything else come to life, like, it's amazing. Are
you guys targeting something that, like long-term Gears fans are just going to be blown away by? Like, we've never seen anything fidelity-wise with...
Well, we're like I said, we're always trying to push, and one of the great things is that as new games come out, they always set a new bar. Yeah. Right? And so we do these things of like... We
just had a pretty damn good year of stuff,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so you always look at a game and a feature and you go like, hey, did you see the snow in God of War? Or like, did you see this? And did you see the foliage in Red Dead? And so those cause us to kind of go back and push ourselves and go like, oh, what we thought was our bar, we're like, no, that's not our bar anymore. And so as you develop that, you realize that kind of goal line changes for what it's going to be. And what's great about having the team that we have at the Coalition is they're always up for that challenge, and they always deliver.
Is there an appetite at the studio to kind of consume games together and sort of reverse engineer or analyze them and sort of see what other studios are doing and going, wow, we have to go the next leg up here?
Yeah, we always play. Like we're a playing studio. That's one of the things we try to do of our own game and of others. And so we have a game library that people can check it out. And the design team and I would do a lot of like, okay, we're on live talking about our experiences and what we're playing, and whether we're playing together or separately, and do the water cooler moment of like, did you see, right? And I have a retail box in my office, and I'll boot up and like, hey, did you notice this? Did you notice this? And we'll actually look at things, even first party, like we fired up Horizon 4 and go like, okay, beautiful. Hey, did you see this? How are we dealing with this kind of stuff? And go talk to them real quick, And so there's that kind of stuff where we take it as, just like I said, I think it's inspiration to continue to push, which I think is great for the industry.
Phil and the Xbox team have made a ton of acquisitions over the last 12 months.
Yes.
Are they tapping into your experience running in this studio, and is there shared expertise and shared information so that all of the the general managers and the studio heads are all kind of on a level playing field out there?
Yeah, well, we're doing, I just came back from Redmond yesterday we call the QBR, the Quarterly Business Review, and basically it's all the leadership teams from all the studios, even then now the new ones, like in Exile and Obsidian. So we're all together in a room for a day, and so we do that for a day, and then we do a half day where all just the studio heads get together for a half day, and it's all that sharing about what do you do here, how do you do that, and I kind of look at it as, the brain trust, the way, if you've ever read Creativity Inc., the Pixar book. Yeah, so they talk about having this brain trust, and that's what I really see these, like, you've got, like, Fergus, who's been making games since the 80s.
Totally.
When I met him yesterday, I was like, dude, thanks for your body of work, because you've been making games.
You've never met Fergus before?
No.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, you've been making games as long as I've been playing them, almost. And so
that's awesome.
And to think about Icewind Dale and all those types of stuff, right?
Was Brian Fargo there too?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's kind of interesting moments of like, you're a fan, but also a creator, and but just being able to share like how we do things. They do it so much differently as independent studios than we do, and they're so much smaller. And you know, Guillaume from Compulsion, he's very small as a studio, and so it's just that sharing of knowledge that we can do across each other. But whether it's like, hey, here's what it's like inside of Microsoft, or here's what we do, and they tell us like, and here's like, you know, like, because you look at games like Hellblade and you look at games like We Happy Few, you know, those are so independently creative that that's really what Matt is trying to do, is he wants to make sure that these studios that join us are not sort of, you know, being pushed into like this big machine of games. It's really more about like, how do we keep the creative integrity of these small studios, because that's so tough. That's why they were bought. Right?
That's so tough, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
That's one of the big challenges. Ubisoft, I think, has done a very good job at sort of creating an identity for a lot of its teams, but of course there's so much cross collaboration, and you know, they do so many, you know, multiple teams working on these games right now.
Yeah.
They have a studio in Winnipeg that's like just all about world building that I found out about this year.
Right,
just sort of helping to create the 3D kind of spaces that we're going to be in. Can you see Microsoft now as a much bigger first-party publisher getting into that kind of thing?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think right now the fact that we have the independent studios is an interesting model. Like we liken it to the, you know, the Canadian mosaic versus the American melting pot.
Okay.
You know, like as Matt likes to say, we're a culture of cultures.
Cool.
And so, which I think is really important. Like the fact that we're not trying to make all the studios be the same, and we're not trying to push this like, okay, everybody is a Microsoft culture, so everybody has, like, even the Coalition is different than Redmond, and so, and Matt really wants that, and that's what I push for. And so that idea of culture of cultures is super important, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. And we're learning a lot, because you hear like, Rare is so inspiring as a studio, and you hear about some of the stuff they're doing inside of their studio, whether it be for mental health or how they support their teams, and you go, you know, wow, then that just makes you want to go and do more.
That's awesome. Is there a corporate-wide kind of structure for things like that at Microsoft?
What do you mean?
Like in terms of creating policy for mental health, or?
There are. I mean, there's benefits and those sorts of things. There's lots of that kind of, you know, what you would expect normally in terms of, and which is great. I mean, they have a great benefit package and ways to reach out to people. But
it's kind of a whole new company in a way, isn't it?
It really,
over the last year, it's like a totally different Microsoft Games division. It's now Xbox Games division.
Xbox Game Studios,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, even all the way down, Satya, I think, is kind of leading that revolution. You know, the notion of, as Phil liked to say, like one of his first meetings with Satya was telling him about like how everybody should be meditating. You know, like, which is not a Microsoft meeting kind of conversation topic. So I think that sort of cultural revolution from Satya down to Phil to Matt and down to us, I think is happening, and I think there's a greater awareness about, you know, what we're doing, whether from mental health and diversity and all these kinds of things, is something that's really important to us as creators, and something that the company's embracing as well.
Awesome. I've got a few questions from my Twitter feed.
Okay.
All right, and you can say no comment.
Okay.
If there is nothing that you can tell us about, but I can't go too deep onto Gears of War 5.
Right.
Is E3 the next time that we're going to hear stuff, or is it potentially a little bit?
Yeah,
Gears 5. I said of War.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to, like, we're purposely controlling. We just don't want. The thing I found really difficult in the past is when you talk too soon.
Yeah.
You have to keep talking, like get excited, go quiet for a while, get excited again, go quiet for a little while, get excited again, right? And so it's more about trying to find a way that we pace the kind of hype train, like how early you started and how do you get it rolling and that kind of stuff. And so we're just being a little bit more patient.
I mean, you showed quite a bit at E3 last year. That trailer was pretty, like, to rewatch it again today, I was like, wow, you showed quite a bit of this game.
We're just really proud of what we're building, and, you know, was one of the things that there was some heartburn around showing the full cinematic of.
Like, are we playing in that bit when we're doing
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
everything there is like that's playable. And the cinematic where, you know, JD and Kate, where Kate confronts JD about what happened, there was a death, and like that's a cinematic from our game, and we were just so proud about where that had gotten, and it really felt like it really resonated to the kind of story we wanted to tell. That it's going to be, you know, an impactful story, an emotional story with a lot of cool kick-ass gameplay to go with it.
Awesome. Let's see if I can get a couple here. Will any of the skins carry over from Gears 4 to Gears 5, i.e. Black Steel and TCA Commendation Lancer? This is from Viking. Neil Pez.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's something we're still working out, to be honest with you. Like, that's it's something that we haven't completely settled on in terms of how that will all work, because one of the things you do as you move one version X is you change how you render things, and so that becomes harder and harder.
Okay, this is a tough one. I don't know. Will fans be surprised by the new mechanics in Gears 5? And out of 10, how much has changed between 4 and 5? Feedback. This is from Onyx Guard 109.
Yeah, I can't quantify it like that. That's too hard to do. I mean, I think there's going to be, for Gears players, I think there's going to be a lot of cool new things for them to do that I think they should be excited about, and that we'll take it in different directions. And we've been listening to the fans and what they want, and I think, and hopefully we're delivering that.
I mean, that was one of the most wonderful, eye-opening things that I discovered when you guys took us through the Gears 4 reveal, when you had all of us come to the studio.
Right.
You just showed us all these videos of people getting tattoos and getting married through Gears. I was like, wow, man, the community is big. You know that as this thing outside of your mind there.
Right.
And then when you start to dive into the people and you see how passionate they are,
yeah, it's that's my biggest inspiration. We just did a fan fest in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and at the XO18 in Mexico, I was there as well.
Cool.
And in over 2 days, I signed posters and took photos for 5.5 hours over 2 days. And it was just story after story about like what the game meant to them and how it brought them together, or how it keeps them family together, how it keeps connected over distances. And that's the big thing that I felt like co-op really brings. Like, a lot of people have great moments in a single player game by themselves, but I get all the stories about what it means with a shared experience, right? And that's why co-op is always what we say. Co-op is cake. It's like, it's not the icing. It's core to who we are, and that idea of shared experience is so important to me. And it comes back to me tenfold by the stories that our fans tell us, and just to see the love. And like I said, I wish I could take every team member and put them in front of that feeling, because it's just amazing.
Microsoft has this product called Skype.
Okay. Let's just hook it up in front and have everybody do the handshakes and poster signs.
We've got Ross Hickey. He's doing a live reaction, and I'm talking about your live reaction as we're doing this live. So I don't know.
We could get sucked into a vortex at any moment.
Is it Inception? Other than Gears, of course. This is from Brian Foote. This is a great question. I was going to get to it. What types of games do you like to play? And he says, keep up the great work. Gears is his favorite franchise.
Nice. Mine too. I like all games, pretty much. I just cannot do Dark Souls. I just can't do Dark Souls. It's just the one franchise.
You have to have so much patience.
I know,
I'm right there with you.
I'm just too old.
I play it and I'm like, man, this thing is just telling me I suck over and over. Like, how much abuse can a game give me?
My self-esteem is razor thin. Like, I can't take that. But no, I mean, I'm doing a lot. Beat Saber right now is kind of my thing. Like,
really?
Yeah, I was not into the VR thing very much. And I got into Beat Saber.
Someone from Coalition, please send us video of Rod playing Beat Saber in VR.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now that they got the new, the League of Legends, the KD, it's a great song. Anyway, I put a bunch of time into Red Dead. I'm almost finished, but I'm not quite.
Yeah.
Every time I go home for Christmas, I play a lot of action RPG stuff with my kids, and so we went through Path of Exile again all the way through. So another level, my second level 80 character, and so in Diablo 3 is probably, other than Gears, is my favorite franchise, and so play a lot of that, especially now that it's on the Switch.
It's crazy on the Switch, isn't it?
But I need my reading glasses, because it didn't scale the UI. The UI is still for TV, and so now, that was the worst part. Was I break up a thing on Switch, and I'm like, son of a, and then I get the grandpa glasses on, and I'm playing Diablo with grandpa glasses on. I'm even, and then the Pokemon,
Let's go.
Eevee.
Yeah.
So I had to go Eevee. But yeah, so I play a lot of stuff.
Is that for the kids, or is that
No, it's me.
Really?
It's me. Great. Yeah. I mean, I was like hitting Pokestops on the way here. So
no way.
So I still
my God. He lives and breathes it. I love it. Are you the person that said we have to make Gears Tactics then? Are you the strategy guy that said we need something in this space?
There's no one person, I think. That's one of the great things about our studio, and I like when we go into a room and people start a conversation, and by the time you walk out of the room, nobody knows who owned it. It was just you walk out with a cool idea, and that's kind of one of our tests. Is like, if somebody puts something out and then you go like and then you go like, oh, that's a good idea. If somebody says something and it's crickets, then you go like, nah, that one's dead. And our publishing team, they're really big into it. Like, our publishing team were the people who really did the Gears Pop thing. They were like, hey, we have this idea, what do you think? And I'm like, that's really cool. But then I went and then I looked down at little mini Kate and I went, what about Pop? And they're like, oh, that could work, right? And so that was a collaboration. Tactics kind of started way back at Epic when we had a game jam and we did a little thing. And so that was always back in my head that there's this way to do, because when you play turn-based strategy in Gears, like it's almost like you took Gears and you concentrate it down to a thick syrup, like the true essence of Gears really is in a turn-based strategy game.
Totally. It's like a game of checkers or chess, right? You're constantly just moving across the board and trying to flank and
totally and going cover to cover to cover, right? And so it feels really good. So it's all
that
like
would make an excellent Switch game. Just saying, Xbox games.
I agree, Nintendo. I agree. No.
That would be amazing. Okay, and that might be something that we just revealed that is going to go all around the internet right now. Okay, during the development of Gears and its sequels, were there any specific games that you felt you be in direct competition with? Does this ever affect game development?
Oh, it always affects.
Yeah, that's from D9000.
Yeah, it always affects game development. Whether they're competitive, like that's the thing I was saying before. You're not looking for necessarily competition of like what's the next third-person shooter out there, like or whatever. Like it's actually just competition on like, oh, their snow tech is better than our snow tech, or their vehicle physics is better than our vehicle physics, or their guns are better than our guns. So you look at like piece by piece, like who you're competing with. But over the like. One of the games I said that I wish I had, some people ask the question of like, what game have you ever, that you wish you were in the credits, like you had made that game, and that really inspired me, and Uncharted 2 was that for me.
Oh yeah.
Like Uncharted 2 was the one where I was like, wow, okay, that's, now I understand, like now I see what it looks like. And
have you ever talked to Amy Hennig about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few conversations, and we're Facebook friends and stuff, but we're not, but it's just, that was a game that sort of, because the way that we did cinematics, like our motion capture and our voices are separate, and they were doing perf cap, and you could see that, like the opening with the cooler on the boat when he grunts through the lifting of the cooler, you were just like, I can't get that in a booth because I don't know that that's happening in that moment, right? And it was just one of those things that those types of games that sort of just inspire you as a creator to go like, wow, like that's amazing. And same thing like Red Dead to me is like, that's just like a mystery. Like you just go like, that's just magic. Like I don't even know how you create that game. Like I'm just like, okay, I'm happy. And I was like,
sounds like Rod's gonna take a vacation in Edinburgh for a little while.
So the way I sum it up is like, people would always ask me like, what do you think of Red Dead? What do you think of Red Dead? I said, I think Red Dead is like the Bohemian Rhapsody of video games.
Right.
As it's a masterpiece. It's really long, and I'm glad not every game is like it.
Right. Yes, and it's a mystery on how it all comes together.
Exactly. Like, and you go like, who had the mind that created this thing, right? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, totally. So, are we going to be? You've got 3 games in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Are we going to be seeing more on all 3 of these games at the same time? Is that the idea, or are we going to start to see these things as individual products pretty soon?
Yeah, they'll be individual. I mean, the thing we wanted to do at E3 was really get I wanted to get across really clearly that Microsoft is tripling down on Gears of War. I think the more that people see us, a number after a game get higher and higher, they start to wonder, is that the last one? Is that the last one?
Right.
And I want to just make it really clear, like, no, like we have a whole studio dedicated to this franchise, and we're going, very broad with comic books and, and the movie and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots going on in the Gears of War universe. So I just wanted to hit people with like, not only are we building one game, we're building 3 games. Like this is how big. And so now that we've had that momentum, you'll start to see us, they'll each start to individually shine.
That's awesome. I am curious to learn a little bit more about the Funko partnership and the relationship there. Have you shown gameplay of it yet? I think we just got a little CG trailer.
Yeah, so far, don't think we've shown. We've shown a little bit, right? There's the Rod and his buddy video. That's right. Dana's in the crowd. Yeah, we did a little developer diary of it, and it showed Tyler Bielman, who's the coalition designer on it, and he walked through like how him and I playing against each other, and sort of showed what it was like. And it's it's a battle arena PvP game, but what's really cool is that Gears brings again cover is core to Gears. So this cover mechanic, this sort of taking territory, is really cool twist on it all.
Yeah.
And the characters come to life, and they were always like, what will we play the real voices? Will we play this? What kind? And I'm like, Muppet Babies. I want Muppet Baby voices. And so now, so like all the characters have these little Muppet Baby voices.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
are they the same actors?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And they've just been sped up?
Yeah, and then we just process them slightly differently.
Oh, that's so rad. So you're doing performance capture now, and it started with Gears 4, yes?
Yeah, we haven't. We did a little bit, yes, in terms of what we were trying to do, and that's something that we like both the quality of what you get for per cap, but we also still like the flexibility we get for in the 2 separate cases. So we tend to do a hybrid of them, and so I think as we look forward, we'll probably do more and more because it's so cool, like I said, to get that sort of the physicality. And one of the things that I really love is just the ad libs. Honestly, that there's some stuff. that our actors bring to it, that when they're in the moment, that they don't know that moment. They don't have all that context when they're in the booth.
Right.
I mean, I do my best when directing them, but when they're there on set, they can say something. And
they're
like,
owning it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, that wasn't in the script, but we want it, right? And so
you got to have a good anecdote or a good story about working with Laura Bailey.
They're all good stories. Laura's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laura is great, and she's in everything. And she's a new mom now, which is awesome to see. She always brings Ronan to her VO booth, stuff, which is great.
Before she starts killing all the bad guys.
I mean, her child is so gorgeous. Like I was like, when she brought him in, I was recording with her like 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, where's his agent? Because like he's definitely ready for like some baby food commercial or something. Because like you take Laura and Travis, which are two gorgeous people, and they get a gorgeous baby out of it, and it was just
probably with a gorgeous voice already.
Probably, he probably has like a quality scream that goes with it. But no, Laura is great, and she's been, her and John DiMaggio. There are kind of the people who've been doing it the most, and it's been really great for Liam and Eugene, who JD and Del, who are newer to it. They've done more on camera work than they've done voice work, and it was really great to have sort of these mentors about like here's a way to do that, and what we've seen from 4 to 5 has been phenomenal. Like we were recording with Eugene again 2 weeks ago, and I just had to tell him again. I'm like, hey, dude, you're just killing it on this game. Like it's amazing. As we review cinematics and we watch Del's character, like. He wasn't as much. He's a lot more in the foreground in 5, and Eugene and is killing it. But they all do. So it's one of my favorite things, just working with this cast.
Awesome. Dude, I want to talk about Gears 5 so badly, and I'm just biting my tongue.
Me too.
Yes, I know you do. So we will reconvene at some point.
Absolutely.
All right? We're both in the same city.
I know, I walked over.
You got a cafe that you can come and hang out in.
With good tea.
And I'll let you know when we've got some other fun guests on the show, and we'd love to have you back, and maybe we'll have you and someone else or something, but I can't wait to find out more about Gears 5.